Chapter 27. Who is the Prince of Slytherin? At dinner that night, Harry and his two Slytherin friends sat on the far end of the dinner table away from Malfoy and his cronies. The two made eye contact at one point, with Draco crooking an eyebrow inquiringly at his defeated rival. Harry looked at him with a beaten expression and mouthed the words "after dinner" to him. Draco nodded smugly and went back to talking with his friends. Harry, Theo, and Blaise ate quietly. They didn't talk to one another. They'd already said everything they needed to say. An hour later, the trio was standing together in a corner of the common room. Harry scanned the room, which was fairly crowded as the returning Slytherins talked about schoolwork or what they'd done during their week-long break or what broom closets they'd be meeting in for after-curfew hookups. On one of the nearby sofas, Rodney Montague was engaged in some intense conversation with his fellow seventh-year prefect, Olivia Colombico, an attractive dark-skinned girl whose family hailed from South Africa but who could trace her pureblood ancestry back nearly 3 centuries. The two seemed to be debating some arcane point about arithmancy relevant to their upcoming NEWTS. On the far side of the room, Marcus Flint held court over the Quidditch team as they discussed new plays for their upcoming match with Hufflepuff. Finally, Draco entered the common room triumphantly along with Crabbe and Goyle.
"Here they come,"
said Theo quietly.
"All right then.
Replied Harry.
Time to put on a show."
The two groups of first years met near the middle of the common room.
"Well, Potter, did you get that cloak for me? I'm looking forward to trying it out." "Actually, Malfoy,"
said Harry amiably.
"I had the cloak. Theo and Blaise will back me up. They've both seen it. But after having a week to think things through, I reconsidered and returned it to the Git. You see, I've decided that rather than give in to your petty blackmail, it would be more effective and practical, and honestly more fun to simply crush you."
He took a step closer to the boy, whose bodyguards tensed.
"Like a bug under my foot."
And then, before Draco could say anything in response, Harry turned aside from him and moved to the center of the room.
"Ladies and gentle wizards of Slytherin House,"
Harry said loudly and confidently.
"May I have your attention, please?"
The assembled Slytherins, who made up almost half of the house, grew quiet and attentive, if somewhat bemused at the little firstie's presumption.
"Thank you. As some of you are no doubt aware, there has been conflict within the first-year Slytherin class between myself and Draco Malfoy and our respective associates. Last Tuesday, just before the break started, that disagreement boiled over into physical violence here in this very common room, and speaking for myself, I apologize for my role in such a vulgar display. Now, as I see it,"
he continued,
"this conflict between Mr. Malfoy and myself arises from his belief, about which he has droned on and on for months, that because of my lineage, my connection to the boy who lived, and my general views on certain political issues, I am unworthy to hold a place within Slytherin House. Well, I have something to say in response to that. Indeed, what I have to say will, I think, prove my right to a place in this house rather conclusively."
He paused then, and his winning smile suddenly became rather cold.
"In fact, and without intending disrespect to anyone here, what I have to say may well prove that I'm more fit to be a Slytherin than, well, nearly every Slytherin currently residing in this castle."
Some in the crowd, especially the most staunchly pureblood upperclassmen, started to mutter darkly at that, but Harry continued as if unconcerned.
"Unfortunately, what I have to say also concerns somewhat delicate matters that I don't think should be bandied about the common room for everyone to hear. Unlike Mr. Malfoy, I believe that discretion and subtlety are important, if underestimated Slytherin values. So when I speak my piece, I will do so in a place of privacy and only in front of a small group of respected House members. With that in mind, I would ask that Mr. Rodney Montague, Miss Olivia Colombico, and Mr. Marcus Flint accompany Mr. Malfoy and myself so that we can continue this discussion."
Harry hesitated for just a second.
"In the conference room."
And with that, Harry turned on his heels and headed towards Prefect's Row. Behind him, the assembled Slytherins began talking in confusion, and for some, in outrage, until Marcus Flint loudly called out, "Hang on, what conference room?" Harry stopped at the corridor entrance and looked back at him. The one at the end of Prefect's Row, of course. Then he turned and continued on down the hall, Flint's brow furrowed in confusion.
There's no conference room at the end of Prefect's Row.
He exclaimed. Oh, yes, there is. Harry's voice loudly echoed down the corridor. A big one, too. Now even more confused, Flint looked over to the seventh-year prefects and did a double-take. Marcus had heard the expression, the blood drained from his face, but he'd never actually seen it before. But at the moment, Rodney Montague honestly looked so pale he might as well have been drained by a vampire. For her part, Olivia looked little better as the two prefects slowly stood. Marcus moved towards them, past an utterly perplexed Draco Malfoy, in time to hear a shaken Olivia ask, "Could it possibly be true, Rodney?" Suddenly, Montague turned and practically ran towards Prefect's Row, emitting a trail of vulgarities that Marcus wouldn't have guessed the priggish seventh year even knew.
"Marcus, take Malfoy and follow Rodney,"
said Olivia firmly. Then she turned and loudly addressed the rest of the confused Slytherins.
"Everyone else stay here. All other prefects, you will guard the entrance to Prefect's Row. No one is to enter until we return. If I catch anyone even looking down that hallway, including younger prefects you can expect to be hexed so hard, they'll have to carry you to Madame Pomfrey in a bucket."
And with that, the young witch pulled her wand and followed the others down the hall. As the room broke out into excited chatter, Crabbe and Goyle looked at each other and then towards Zabini and Nott.
What's going on?
Goyle asked Harry's two friends.
Your boss sowed the wind,
said Theo calmly. This might take a while. You guys know how to play Exploding Snap. Crabbe and Goyle looked at each other again, shrugged, and started looking around for an open table. Meanwhile, Olivia, Marcus, and Draco had come to a stop behind Rodney, who was standing in front of an inky black portal where a brick wall used to be.
Okay,
said Marcus uneasily. That's never been there before.
Olivia,
said Rodney in a shaky voice.
This looks exactly the way they described the entrance to us. Does this mean?
"I don't know, Rodney,"
she said quietly.
But if it is, does that mean that Potter is, you know?
"I don't know, Rodney,"
she said again.
What is all this, some trick of Potter's?
Said Draco irritably.
"Be quiet, Malfoy,"
Olivia said as she studied the door.
Don't talk to me like that, my father OWW. Can it spragu?
Said Marcus angrily after cuffing Malfoy hard on the back of his head. Rodney and Olivia looked at each other and nodded before entering the passageway together with their wands drawn. Marcus and Draco followed. Once inside, Marcus was so impressed he didn't notice the soft grind of the door closing behind him. This was definitely a conference room, albeit an unusual one. There was even a conference table, flanked on either side by fancy chairs with brass snakehead finials. But at the head of the table, there wasn't a chair. There was a throne. To be more precise, there was a massive black throne that looked to be carved out of a solid block of basalt inlaid with silver filigree and with thick green silk cushions to provide comfort. But the most impressive and intimidating thing about this throne was what sprang out from its back, a number of truly massive silver snake sculptures, each with huge emeralds for eyes. By far the dominant one was the silver basilisk in the center that curved over the throne almost protectively. Its body was as wide as a tree trunk, and it loomed at least 15 feet tall, with emerald eyes the size of a man's fist. Flanking it were a python and a king cobra that were almost as tall, if not so wide. On the right side of the throne, from Marcus's perspective, were three smaller but still oversized snakes, representations of an ashwinder, a boomslang, and finally a blue kite, though this one was, of course, silver. On the left side was a large runespur with three heads growing out of a single oversized trunk. The whole thing looked like something out of antiquity or myth, the throne of some ancient pagan serpentine god king. And currently sitting on the throne, as if born to it, was Harry Potter.
Thank you all for coming.
He said reasonably.
Please take a seat.
Rodney pointed his wand towards Harry.
Get out of that chair.
He growled in a mixture of rage and fear. Harry leaned forward with an innocent expression on his face. Why, Rodney, is this your chair?
Damn it, Potter.
exclaimed Rodney. His wand hand was shaking, and there were beads of sweat on his brow.
No,
Said Harry cheerfully.
I don't think this is your chair at all, Rodney, nor yours, Olivia, though like every seventh-year prefect before you, I know you've been told by your predecessors about this chair and this room, and what it probably means that I'm sitting here right now.
He leaned back and turned his gaze to the other two Slytherins, who were looking around the lair in wonder.
Marcus, Draco, from the looks you're giving, I'll wager that neither of you know anything at all about this chair, which is rather sad in your case, Draco. You see, not too long ago your father sat where I'm sitting now. Lucius Malfoy claimed this seat when he was a student. His name is on one of those silver placards mounted over there on the wall.
He pointed towards the next to last nameplate.
Lucius Malfoy, 1970-1972, but I'm sorry to say that no, this